loads more new additions to the Tonic memory book range. I just filmed a video looking at the brand new Curio Creator, which is kind of like the legacy keeper that they brought out a little while ago. I was going to put everything in the same video, but I'm kind of glad I decided to split it into two videos because I was rabbiting on for quite a long time in that video. But I will make sure to link it below. I'm not sure which one I'll edit first, but anyway, I'll make sure to link them in each other's descriptions so that you can find them. I'll briefly show you the two die sets I talked about in that video in this one, but for more detail in it you'll have to go to the other video, otherwise this one will end up being really long. So this video is about the brand new Keepsake wallet creators. So I suppose this is kind of classed as Memory Book 4, because Memory Book 1 was that kind of scallopy shape one. Memory Book 2 was the rectangles with the inverted corners. Memory Book 3 was the square one that came out not too long ago actually. And then we also had the Insert Creator dies, and this is kind of like a bigger version of the Insert Creators, because these make enormous journals. Like this is like bigger than A5. It's crazy. So they've been taking me ages to decorate because they're so enormous, but they're really decent size though, like brilliant for art journaling as well. So they're kind of like Memory Book 4. I'm not sure if they're going to class them as Memory Book 4, but they're basically like a bigger, slightly different version of the Insert Creator dies that came out a little while ago, and you can use these in conjunction with the other memory books that have come out. I think Karen said that Alison had used this centre section that you get in here and actually folded it up like the spine die. So if you don't have the spine die, you could cut this central section a few times and use it to create a spine for the other shapes of memory book as well. You can also use this in conjunction with the brand new, it didn't come out that long ago, the Exquisite Envelope die set, which had this kind of a mechanism down it as well. I actually used the holes from this one to add holes to that so that it would work inside the memory book I was making with this die set. So having the different hole mechanisms, you can add the insert creators into this one, just maybe make sure to use the spines from this one so that the holes will definitely line up. I haven't checked to see if the holes are definitely the same in the other ones, but they might be slightly different spacing, I'm not sure. But if you want details on all of the other memory book stuff that has come out, I did a video on the square, which was Memory Book 3, the square memory book, and also on the Insert Creator dies, and I'm pretty sure in both of those, and with the Exquisite Envelope up-close video as well, I'll try and remember to link all three of them below, but that should give you an overview of like everything that's come out in the memory book range. But there has been so much now. I mean, I'm sure it's only like 2.5 years, maybe a bit more, since the first one came out, but there's been so much since then, which is brilliant. So let's look at the actual die sets. So the names I have for them at the moment are, this one is called Dream Big, and the other one is called Live Every Moment. So I presume they're going to be the actual names. I haven't got the real packaging to show you, but again, I think it's going to be the new packaging, and I'm sure it's going to be covered in loads of cool inspiration from Ali as well, which is brilliant. So they're really large size. I mean, look, this is an A4 magnetic sheet and it literally covers it. I think this is like the widest die that Tonic might have ever done. It's enormous. And again, I said in the Curio video, because there's such a lot of open space, you're going to get cracking. You get cracking with this one as well. Because it's got this big open space, you do get cracking noises when you run this through your die cutting machine. But that's totally normal though. And yeah, so this is the shape of this one, and you kind of get this like 4-section spine, which gives you loads of different possibilities. Both of them have this sort of four-section spine, and you can use it to attach these to the actual spine if you have the spine die, or you can use the little hole or ribbon threader dies that come in the sets to cut in different places to create different kind of mechanisms. Like one of the ones I've done, you use one that's one apart from each other to create the whole mechanism, or you can with for the pages of that one, actually, I cut them both together and then I actually snipped the page in half, so you had the nice side of the cardstock both together, so you can actually like cut it in half and put this on top rather than folding it over and having the professional edge and the non-professional edge together. But obviously when you're making your own, you'll figure that out. So I'm sure loads of you are way more expert at making memory books than I am. But this one actually, it has a straight edge around it, but it has the pierced detail in it already, which is really lovely. So you have that dotting detail already in there, and this spine just gives you so many options of how to put your memory book together and how to combine it with all of the other memory book ranges that have come before this one. And then I really love this. These edges on these, if you have any of the kaleidoscope dies, there was the tiny little square kaleidoscope lid. I think it's one of the only ones that I remember seeing it on. There's probably been on some of the others as well, like the smaller panels on things. But when I cut that, the little square nesting die that's in that one, when I cut that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is lovely, because it cut an edge, but then just inside the edge it like debossed a line in it, and I was like, I really hope they do some more things with these, and they've actually done it in these ones. It's really cool. So you cut the panel, but you get this extra debossed line. It looks so professional, and you also get the largest of the rectangles in this one has that line on it as well, and the smaller rectangle in the other one has it on too. So I'm really pleased about that. And then with the rectangles on this one, the smaller one has the scalloped with the dots in it. And I didn't actually use this for any layers on any of my books, but I actually cut it and then cut it in half and used it as a little section that slipped out of a pocket that I'd made out of this side piece, which I thought was a nice use for it. Then you also get these pockets in them as well. You get a different one in both of them, and I'm pretty certain they would fit a gift card in them. I haven't actually got one. Wait a second. Okay, so I've got this. It's not actually a gift card, but it's the same size. So it doesn't quite fit lengthways, but it would fit in portrait ways, and the other one I think is perfect. Yep, absolutely perfect for a portrait ways gift card. So you can use that inside your cards and then have like a little gift card inside it. And I think it's this one. Is absolutely perfect for your Curio. This is the piece, if you've watched the Curio video, I snipped it into different pieces, and this is one of the end pieces, and you can create a little wallet and it fits absolutely perfectly into that pocket. And then because it's so thin, it's only like a couple millimetres, there's a little spine on it, it doesn't matter that the pocket hasn't got like an extra thick gussety thing for it to fit into. It'll just work absolutely perfectly, and then I'll show you that in one of my samples as well. Yeah, so what else do you get in this set? I've forgotten what I was talking about now. So this is the Dream Big one, and you get the word Dream Big with the bubble around it, and I love that they've done the capital words with the swirly words as well, and that actually some of the capitals have got gorgeous swirls, like the R on that dream is a swirl, and like the S over here and on the E, I think that's coming off of. This one says cherish every moment. I really like that one as well. It's a really large sized one as well. And then you also get some extra little tags, which again, as I was saying in the Curio one, I know a lot of people with their project life and scrapbooking and stuff find these tags like so useful that you can just cut a tag and write a little bit of journaling on it and stick it in a pocket or stick it on. So I think those are really lovely. And again, for your cards, you could cut like loads of these out of different colours or different patterns of cardstock. Like say you got the Blue Blossom colour trend, you could cut loads of them out of all the different cardstocks from that colour trend and create your own like little brickwork pattern for a card or for a page on a memory book or an art journaly kind of thing, or a scrapbook page. So loads of different things you can do with those. You get this kind of little motify thing. It's kind of like a little rosetti flowery kind of a thing. And then you get this, which is a tag. So it's an odd shaped tag, but it is actually a tag. It does look really nice when you make it. I've made this for one of them. And the inside layer for that tag actually has that deboss line that I really like in as well. And this piece here, this rose piece, fits perfectly on your Curio as well. I've actually got This was one of the cards I showed in the Curio video, where I'd snipped off these portions of the Curio and used 4 of them to create a card, and here, this is actually that panel. So I love how everything mix and matches together. Like, you can just get one die set, but if you really love making a memory books and you get all of them, there's so many different possibilities of bits and pieces that fit together and work together. And obviously, look through all of your other Tonic dies that you have, because I'm sure there's square shaped things. I mean, that, well, what I was just saying, that Perfect Posy, I think it was called, the square lid from the Kaleidoscope collection, I'm sure that square element would fit nicely on these as well, or on that pocket. Or similarly, if that piece fits nicely on here, any of the patterned panels from this would work nicely on this pocket too, so you can mix and match it both ways. So that is, oh, you also get the spines as well. This was the one I used for the spine that I've woven for one of my books. But this one is also nice for like a ribbon threader, and I'm pretty sure that Jodie will be over the moon with this die, because in the old Legacy Keeper, you got a short little one of this. It gives you that like look that you've pulled your paper out of a ring bound notebook, and we had a little short one, but now look at this, we have a full length one and it works really well. I actually cut through 6 sheets of like printer paper, like thick printer paper, with this. It worked perfectly, and it is 7 3/4 inches long, or like 19.5 centimetres, so it's a really long die. Brilliant for creating any like little notepads you want to put, like, cause, if you cut a few pages together and add a little bit of glue along the top, and then use the Tonic perforator rolling tool, you can actually create a little perforated notepad, so you can like pull off the pages and write stuff on them. I'll show you that in one of my samples. So that is the Dream Big die set. And then this one is the Live Every Moment. Very similar, except instead of getting this one here, you get a 3rd spine, like a different version. And these, yeah, they are actually very similar hole patterns and stuff to those original insert creators. Obviously, these are a lot longer to fit the length of them. But you've got the squares, and these ones you don't get the hole reinforcers. With the insert creator dies, you got the hole reinforcers, so if you already have them, I'm sure they will work perfectly with these as well. You get this sort of wonky dotty one, and again, if you want to stick the book together with foam tape like I have for one of mine, you could still cut these on the outside ones and just have them as a design feature, or you could thread ribbon through it but not actually use it to put the book together. You could just thread it through it and have it as like a border on one of your pages or something, and then you've got this really large one which looks kind of like a standard hole punch size actually. Got my little baby hole punch here. It's a little bit smaller than a standard hole punch size, but you know, almost that kind of a size. So yeah, this one would fit your book rings perfectly. So I've got some here. So like these kind of book rings that you get, this size would go perfectly with book rings too, because you can obviously create your memory book and put it together with these as well. You don't have to use some kind of ribbon or twine to bind it, or foam tape to stick it together, or use the spine or anything. You can just easily put those little rings on as well. So really, really simple. And then this one, obviously because it's called Live Every Moment, you get the word Live Every Moment with the bubble around it. You also get Inspire, which I really love. I love this swirly S. It reminds me of the Merry Christmas die from Tonic that they brought out quite a few years ago, but it has that swirl on the S of it, and I really love that one. Then you get the other pocket, which is more of a portrait pocket, which fits a gift card absolutely perfectly. So you can use this on the inside of your greetings cards and put a gift voucher in there, or in your memory books, like places like Topgolf and stuff. You often get like a membership card, and sometimes they run out really quickly. You know, like they're only valid for like a few months or even 1 month. So say you've got a whole double page spread of you going to Topgolf with your friends, you can have a photo of that and then have this little pocket holding the actual card that you used when you were there, and it has the date on it and everything, so you can remember when it was and stuff. Or cinema tickets. I don't know if you kind of get bits of paper now, don't you, rather than an actual ticket, but maybe like theatre tickets, or If you've been somewhere on a car ferry, sometimes you get like little things to hang on your rear view mirror. You could fold one of them up and put it in here. With that bigger one, actually, you might even be able to fit a map in it, or one of those brochures that you get, and it would just support the bottom of it. Or you don't even have to use the bottom of the pocket. You could stick it with the two side pieces and have something that slides all the way through. So especially with tickets, if they're like this kind of a width, you could just stick it on both sides, cut off that bottom tab, and it could come out both sides of it. So it just holds it in place then, rather than it being a pocket. Yeah, loads of different things you can do with them. Anyway, the rectangles that are in this one, you get a dotty one. So if you have both of these, you can mix and match them together, and you can put this dotty one with this because you already have the dotty outside and continue that dotty theme. Or it's quite nice to have the mix of the debossed and the dotty, because this one, I forgot to say that, this actual outside edged one, instead of having the dots around it, it has that debossed line. I really love that so much. It looks so professional. It looks really cool. So all the way around the edge of the rectangle and the edge of that flap shape, you have that extra little deboss line. And so then the next layer to go around it has the dotty pattern, so that it sort of layers up with that. And then the smaller rectangle in this one has the deboss line as well. So if you really love that and you have both of them, you could use this one to get the deboss line, then you could use the larger deboss line one and then the slightly smaller deboss line one and layer them up on top of each other to like get that lots of the deboss line. And then this one, its pattern, I didn't really show you the pattern on this, did I? The first one's pattern is this gorgeous rose. I think that would look stunning snipped out and put on a card or paper pieced in. And again, this little rose panel, and this sort of matches the trellis of this main panel as well. But if you wanted to make this more floral, you could snip the flower out of this and put it on top of this as well. You could decoupage this up. You could just use that portion of it on a card. You could have a square aperture and just have that behind it and make it a shaker card for a card as well. And then the intricate detail on this one is a gorgeous pattern. It actually kind of has like a diagonal design to it that goes across both ways, and a really pretty swirly design that's comes across in the little tag and the pocket as well. And the tag for this one is kind of more of a normal shape of tag, and you can see there that bottom element of the tag mimics like that style of memory book number 2. So they really do think about if you want to mix and match these with your previous memory books that have come out as well. And you get a really lovely flower in this die set too, and you get a couple of nesting diamonds as well, so you can create cool patterns with them. I know one of Alison's samples, she's used them like this to create that kind of a flower effect, so that might be on the packaging of the samples as well. Or you can just do like a tessellating pattern with the different sizes or the same size or layering on top of each other as well. So loads of different things you can do just with those little tiny dies as well. So that is the die sets. I also wanted to quickly just show you the other bits that are coming out. So there's also the Curio die set, and I've done more of an up-close look in that other video, but that's what the Curio die set looks like, and you've got all the different elements inside there to use, and you can use them in conjunction with this. That pattern also looks very similar, so they would go really nicely together. And again, like I said before, some of these panels will fit nicely on the pockets or tags that are in the memory book set as well. So I go through this in much more detail in the other video. And then there's also 2 of these accessories. I'm pretty sure they're called accessories. I keep calling them the wrong thing. No, they're called essentials. I keep calling them accessories. The essentials, there's 2 die sets of them. This one's mine are labelled, this one's number 1, this one's number 2. But again, in that other video, I go through these in a lot of detail. You've got all the little arrows. You'll probably see some of the bits and pieces pop up in my samples. You've got the little tickets. You've got loads of different words that say spring, summer, autumn, winter, remember when, last time. You know, loads of different things. And then you also have the stamp set that coordinates, and you can stamp onto the little tags and onto some of the banners and arrows as well. But that's all, I go through that in much more detail in the other video. So we move this. Okay, so for the show, they wanted a few samples just showing the Essentials die sets with the older memory books, just to show, you know, how they all work together. So this one is using memory book number 2, which was this shape of a memory book, but similarly you can use memory book number 1 if you want to as well. And then the other one I've used memory book number 3. And I've actually used both of the memory book number 3 dies, because you had this one that gives you the base for the memory book, and then you have this decorative one as well, and I've used the decorative on the other one too, but I just wanted to show you them quickly. So the way I did this, I just made it like it was a card blank, just to show a double page, and obviously you could stick this into your memory book if you wanted to. I mean, you could stick it in like that so it would flap outwards, or you can just create it into your memory book, or, you know, do something similar if you want to. So I was showing how the new words from the Curio fit perfectly into the photos and film strip die set that came out with memory book number 2. And so you can see that it's the same font that they used in that die set. So now you've got loads more different words from that Curio set. I've also used some of the Curio ones in different places, layering behind and snipping around them. So I just cut. I love this wonky look. I explained it in the Curio video. I love the wonky look, so all I do is just cut them randomly in card. I did loads out of white and loads out of black, and then I just take the Tonic shears and just snip along them into little rectangles, and then I stick that onto another piece of coloured card, and then I just chop around it, either straight up to the black or leaving a little white border, whichever I think will look better for what colour combination I'm using. So I like doing that as well. I've used some of the stamps here with this on this day, and I've used the stamps to decorate the little ticket tags, and this little pocket I made was actually using one of the smallest layering dies from memory book number 2. In the background of both of these I've used one of the butterfly dies. It's like butterfly swirl or butterfly flourish, something like that. And I've just layered some of them up with vellum and cardstock. And I've used Inspire, which is from one of the Essentials die sets, along with the little tickets and the arrows and everything. And this is one of the words from the die sets as well. So just showing how you can easily decorate your older style of memory books with all these dies as well. So that is just using memory book 2. Then memory book 3 I did with this one, and this is where I said about using oh, I haven't put that back together, about using the little portions of the Curio in with the pockets that come in the new wallet creators. So you can actually just use the pocket to hold part of the Curio, which I thought was brilliant. And I've just cut this out of patterned paper, and then I lined it with some cardstock, just added a little panel inside it, and you can just use that as a standalone little embellishment to go inside a pocket on a page. And I used the Remember When words and Adventure as well, and some of the flowers from the wallet creators. And then this one I used one of those corners from the Essentials die sets, and I just did it so that you could have a photo that comes out. Maybe you don't want to, maybe it's an old photo and you don't want to put any adhesive on it because you're not sure how it will react over time, or you don't want to stick it down because you might want to use it for something else. You can just tuck that into there, and I've just added an arrow to show that that kind of comes out. I've used the Cherish Every Moment sentiment and another one of the flowers and stuff. So that's just sort of basics, really, showing you how you can use some of it together. Then I've got my 2 large samples using this. This first one is an art journal, and the other one is more like a memory book. I didn't get a chance to decorate all of the pages in this one because I kind of ran out of time, but I've just done a few of them in there. I did decorate all of this one though, and I've done this like flip-flap thing on the front of it, and this is my kind of binding that I love to do, where I just add a strip of foam tape between each page. This is how I used to make memory books like donkey's years ago, like 2011, 2012. I used to make little memory books like this. I just cut my card with a paper trimmer because I don't think I had a die cutting machine back then. And I just cut card with a paper trimmer, score it at like an inch for the spine, and then stick foam tape between it to create a little really sturdy spine, and it gives you a little bit of space between the pages as well because you've got that foam tape. So for this one, all of the pages, I actually just took some like printer paper, and I was just playing with some acrylic paints, and I was brayering it on with a brayer. And you can see here, you might recognise some of these patterns as being Tonic die sets. This is one of their doily dies, and what I did was I was actually cutting some of the doily dies out of funky foam, and this is some of the patterned panels. So I just cut them out of funky foam and then was using them like stamps just to add some extra pattern onto all of these backgrounds, which I thought was a nice way of using them. And I also used a lot of the doodled journaling stamps as well. You could easily create your own like bullet journal using these dies and use all of the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and all of the numbers with them as well. I was mainly focusing on the pretty flowers and making this into an art journal, but you can definitely use all of the numbers and words from that too. And so I just used one of the words from the Curio. I used, this one is actually one of the media dies, and then I used one of the newer alphabets. This one is the temperance in the capital uppercase letters. And I just wrote out the word journal and shadowed it with white on top of black. I really love how this turned out, and I went for a whole rainbow theme. Every single page is a different colour of the rainbow. And I used all Craft Perfect to make this as well, and it stands up really nicely because I've doubled the pages and stuck them to each other. For this section here, I wanted to just show, where did that go? Oh, it's here. So what I did was I took the scraps, I think, of all of the sheets that I'd cut the actual pages out of, and then I trimmed them into different widths using my guillotine, and then just stuck them all together to create this kind of a patterned paper, just using double-sided adhesive onto a piece of printer paper. And then all you do is lay your die on and cut this out, and then you get this gorgeous rainbow panel for the front of the journal. And then all of the other pages go perfectly because the whole thing is rainbow. I also coloured all of the flowers on the front of this with rainbow colours as well, just to bring in the rainbow as well. And then when I stuck all of the pages together, I left the top open, and this is actually the Woodland Tag, is that what it's called? No, Mythical Glade layering die set. The sort of in, not the outside one, the next one in, of the tags in that. I just added a couple in there because these are such enormous journals. These tags work perfectly. Like, and if I'd been more careful with how wide a tape I'd put on, and if I'd put it right near the edges when I stuck them together, you probably could get the largest size inside there as well. But I'd used like a 6mm tape and stuck it a bit further in, so it wouldn't quite fit. But the next size down fits perfectly in there. So that's the front cover, and the back cover I made it go back to red again as well, and I actually used some of those doodly flowers to stamp onto the painty papers that I'd created as well. And so I did a different one of those painty papers for every single page, obviously going in the rainbow, and then on each of the pages I've just decorated them with one of the brand new words, either leaving it by itself or mixing it with one of the extra words from the Curio die set. And then I've added in some of the flower designs, and like here I've actually drawn my own stalks. I've just like mimicked the style of the doodle stamps and done my own little stalks, so you can add stalks to the flowers. This is what I was saying about creating your own little notebook. Like, because I've done this as like an art journal, I thought ideas would be brilliant, and imagine I thought worked perfectly with the word ideas. And then I've just done like the little notebook thing, and then I've written good quotes, so like different things you might want to add into an art journal or something. I just thought that was a nice idea. And obviously you can add to this as well. If you'd use them all up, you could rip the top piece off and then stick a few more pages in as well. I've just done 6 in there for now, but yeah, you could add in as many as you wanted to. Then I go on to green, and I've used the Live Every Moment and Laugh, and then here I've used Love, Adventure, Together. Again, it's all like the same theme, but I just used different versions of the coloured in images, and also different of the words and like the actual sort of quotey things that are already in those essentials die sets as well. Then we go on to the blue pages. I did Always Dream Big. For some reason that made me think of underwater, so I used the bubbly kind of stamp, so it kind of looks like bubbles going up there. And then we've got Never Stop Dreaming, and then I put Ever, so I thought that was quite nice to mix together on this bluey page. And I've added another one of the tags in between there as well. And then the final 2 pages, I've used a lot of the words together, and I even used one of the newer stamps as well to create a little banner to go behind one of the words. You've got Inspire, Dream, Imagine, Laugh, Remember. I just thought that was quite nice to put together. And then this last one I put Cherish Every Moment, and then added in Forever as well, and used some of the heart stamps on that one. And I just planned out the rainbow so that it would start and end with red, so that the whole cover is a nice red colour. So I did, like if you go with the Roy G. Biv thing, it's like Richard of York gave, and I did to battle in vain. It doesn't really have pink in it, but the pink makes it go back to the red. So yeah. That's how I did that rainbow version. I really love how this turned out. And this spine, I measured 1.5 centimetres, 1 centimetre, 1.5 centimetres, and stuck it on like that, because that was perfect for 1 centimetre, how many pages I'd put together. And this is the Crimson Silk, which came out in the Merry and Bright colour trend. I just thought adding a little bit of luxury to the spine would be really nice. And I stuck that on with the 12mm red liner tape from Tonic, so that it's really sturdily stuck onto there. So that was the first example. And then this one was using the Live Every Moment die set, and then this one was using the Dream Big one. And I did this as a double cover. So instead of just using the rectangle that it came with, I've added a second cover around the back of it, so it opens like this. I think Ali has done one of them as well, so that might be on the front of the die set. But I really loved that idea of it going like that. And then for the sentiment, I've done Never Stop Dreaming, and to make that more sturdy, it's quite sturdy on there, I stacked up 3 of them together, and then I put vellum behind it. But behind the first vellum, I put double-sided adhesive on it before I cut it, so then I could stick another vellum one behind it, and because you've got that adhesive there, it's making it really strong, and the 3 layers of card, so it shouldn't get bent or destroyed from being opened and closed and stuff. And also the way I did this, obviously this side it doesn't need a spine because it's going around the book, and you can use those score lines that are in there to create that little portion that goes around the book. And on this side I've used it to create the actual spine. Originally I cut one of the holes in the wrong place because I did 2 sets of holes next to each other, and then I was like, oh, but I need a third one that's further away from that. But I then thought, well, why not just add some ribbon through the holes, so it makes it look like more of an actual design feature along the end. And then I've used the other 2 sets of holes that I made to thread the twine up and down the binding to hold all of the pages together. Okay, so inside the book, I went through and I cut a few of each of the 2 different styles of pages, and some of them obviously I've used this panel, and some of the other ones I've used this panel, and all I did was I snipped them apart. So where I was showing you before, the whole spine section in the middle, it has like 4 sections, so I cut it down the middle and then cut the holes on the outer section of both of them, and so then that's what's holding them in the spine portion. But then I used these extra pieces, so you have the nice side against the nice side, and I used red liner tape to create them into little pockets. And behind all of these I've actually used glitter, so I've cut all that intricate patterning out, and then instead of having to sit there and add glue to behind all of that, I stuck double-sided adhesive behind it and then used some glitter. And I've used a mixture of the aqua and the blue opal glitters, just to add glitter to those different panels, and again all of the ones I've done with that. To add some extra interest to these pages, because I was kind of running out of time for decorating, I've actually used the new corner dies. I've got them here to show. So I used some of these corner dies. I used the tangled twine here, and I've just cut them the same coloured card as the page, but obviously this would be like a memory book and you'd add photographs in here and stuff as well, but I just done sort of like the basic decorating. And then here I used, this one is the delicate lattice, and I put one in this bottom corner here and one up here because it kind of like fills in the rest of the design from this swoopy pattern that was going on there. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I cut some of these scalloped panels in half so they sort of fit behind here and give you like an extra piece sticking out of the pocket. And then I actually made two of those little tags with the roses on and stuck a word on each of them to go inside these pockets. And then here you'll notice that this is an envelope, and this is the exquisite envelope. Here, this one, exquisite envelope, and it has this whole spine mechanism inside it as well, which is exactly the same kind of idea with the 4 different spine sections as this. So the way I did it, the holes on here don't exactly line up with the holes on here, so I actually used the holes from the wallet creator dies, and so I cut the net of the envelope first, and then I used the holes from this one to cut the holes into them. And for this one I actually did snip it into 2 halves as well. So again, I snipped down the middle of this spine so that I could make sure the holes were definitely lined up in the right place, and then I finished assembling the envelope. And I did the same thing for the decorative panels, adding them to double-sided adhesive and putting glitter behind them. So it's just sort of the basic decoration of the book. And I did add all of these glittery panels throughout the rest of the book. I just haven't had enough time to finish decorating them. But it just shows you an example of like how you can build the book. And because this was the first time for me making it, I wanted to get it all put together and bound into the spine before I decorated the pages, because I wanted to make sure it was going to work the way I wanted it to. But yeah, really easy to bind together. The way I did it was you just lined everything up. So if you ignore this page, I stuck all this part on afterwards, because this back is actually now double because there's 2 covers stuck together. But you basically line everything up and hold it all together. Then you take your twine and stick some sellotape around the end of your twine to make it kind of like a needle. Because it just makes it much easier than trying to find a needle that's got an eye big enough to fit baker's twine through but will still go through the holes and stuff. So I wrapped sellotape around it once, then snipped off the excess, then wrapped it around again and snipped off the excess, and that really, really worked. Made it so much easier for threading it through. And then all I did was I went from the back this time and I went up and down all the way along, catching all the pages as I went. And for the envelope, because it's shorter, I put it 2 holes down from the top and it's 1 hole up from the bottom. So it doesn't quite go in the actual centre, but it fits in there really nicely. And then I was going to stick the ends of the twine behind the second cover when I stuck it on, but then I forgot. So all I did was tie a double knot and then put some glue on it to hold it so it will stay in place. And that's how I finished off that book. So I really love how this one came out as well, actually. And I also just used some aquatic mist glittery Nouveau drops, and followed the curve of this one and then followed the curve of this one. And oh yeah, and how I did this was I cut an extra piece of blue card because they didn't quite meet in the middle because of the way I had done the spine mechanism. It made it a bit too wide, but I really love this curved element that it's made to it. But yeah, so I did this whole side, and then to get this matching up I just folded this over and followed the outside of it to get the curve again. And this piece of card, I think it was like 9 centimeters wide, fit perfectly, and I just stuck it to this main flap that's attached to the spine, and then this one just fits nicely over the top of it. You could add some extra like ribbon around it if you wanted to, but I feel like that stays shut quite nicely as it is. So I hope you enjoyed this up close video. I'm not sure if it's as long or longer than the Curio one, but if you really are interested in the memory books, I'd recommend watching both of them so you can decide what bits and pieces you want to add to your collection for the memory books. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the video. There was quite a lot of me rabbiting on about stuff, but I hope it was useful, and Oh yeah, I've had people ask before how I just explained how I bind this, but if you want more of an example, in my up close video of the exquisite envelope, I kind of showed more how you would bind these kind of things together as well. So I will try and remember to link that below the video too. So thank you so much for watching and putting up with all my rabbiting on about the memory books. And I'll see you again in the next video. Bye!